I still remember the smell of floor wax. It lingered on my hands even after I scrubbed them raw. My name's Adil, and I was a janitor at Halcyon Global, one of the most prestigious tech firms in the city. To everyone else, I was invisible. A mop, a bucket, and a pair of silent shoes. But I had a secret. Behind that uniform, I carried a mind trained not by degrees or institutions, but by necessity, hunger, and a relentless desire to break free. Every morning started the same. I'd enter through the back gate, swipe my ID, maintenance level 1, and greet the security guard, who barely nodded. I'd clean the smudged glass doors, empty the CEO's bin filled with half-eaten sushi and burned-out ideas, then polish the hallway floors until they reflected a version of me I didn't recognize. In the boardrooms, behind glass walls, I'd overhear the world being reshaped, funding talks, international deals, mergers. I'd pause, mop in hand, and listen. I never interrupted, never spoke, but I listened, and I learned. The moment everything changed started with a laugh, a loud, arrogant laugh. The director, Mr. Victor Laurent, a tall, sharp-suited Frenchman, had been hosting a delegation from Japan. They were arguing about AI localization and needed someone to translate a tricky technical document written in native-level Japanese. Their own translator was sick. Panic was setting in. I was cleaning nearby when he spotted me and chuckled. "Hey, janitor, you look bored. Why don't you translate this?" The entire room laughed. I looked at the document in his hand. My heart thudded. I had spent the last 7 years teaching myself 5 languages, English, French, Russian, Arabic, and Japanese, while working nights and weekends. It wasn't just a hobby, it was my way out. I took the document and quietly began. 5 minutes later, silence. I had translated the technical draft word for word with correct syntax, grammar, and context. I even restructured the localization pitch so that the phrasing would resonate with the Japanese corporate culture. The interpreter from the delegation stared at me. "He's correct," he confirmed. "Even better than our own translator." "Victor's." Smirk faded. He took the pages from me, scanned them, then looked up. "You're telling me you're just a janitor?" I smiled. Not just. They didn't promote me that day. There was no overnight miracle. But whispers started circulating. Some employees started calling me the genius with the mop. Others avoided eye contact, uncomfortable with the idea that someone beneath them could be smarter. I kept my head down, for a while. What most people didn't know was that I'd once been a top student. Back in Pakistan, I was the youngest. Child in a family of 5 growing up in Lahore. My father passed when I was 10. My mother cleaned homes and sold embroidery just to afford my school fees. At 13, I was reading quantum mechanics for fun. But when she got sick, I dropped out and took whatever job I could to send money back. That job, cleaning floors, in the middle of Silicon Valley, was supposed to be temporary. But temporary turned into years. At night, I studied. Every spare moment went into books, courses, podcasts, and pirated Harvard lectures on AI, coding, and business theory. I slept 3 hours a night. Not because I had to, but because my hunger was greater than my exhaustion. Still, no one cared. Not until the day I fixed their Japanese problem. A week later, HR summoned me. They offered me a junior internship in the localization department. Paid a third less than what I earned as a janitor. I said yes. Because sometimes, pride needs to sit down and let purpose drive. I swapped my mop for a cubicle and started over again. From day one, I wasn't just working. I was watching. How? Did people behave in meetings? Who made decisions? What kind of language did the executives use? I wrote it all down, like a student decoding a new culture. While others went for lunch, I studied product development cycles and machine learning white papers. I wasn't interested in being liked. I wanted to be invaluable. One night, around 9 p.m., I stayed behind to fix a bug in a Japanese chatbot we were building. I wasn't assigned to that team. I just saw the problem and knew how to fix it. I left the notes on the lead developer's desk, anonymously. The next morning, that developer, a woman named Maria, was in a frenzy. Who did this? This is exactly what we needed. Eventually, I admitted it. She didn't say much, just nodded and left. 2 days later, she invited me to join her project as an assistant, unpaid, technically against HR policy, but I joined anyway, because learning was my currency. And I was investing it like a madman. That decision would change my life. Maria was building a product, a real-time voice translation AI. It was rough, patchy, and years away from being market-ready. But I saw what no one else did. The global need for cross-border collaboration was growing, and AI translation wasn't just a gimmick, it would be infrastructure. So I threw myself into it. I'd code through weekends, translate data sets manually, test voice models. We trained the AI in English, Japanese, and Arabic, using culturally relevant idioms, slang, and business phrases. One day, Maria turned to me and said, "You ever think about starting your own thing?" I froze. No one had ever asked me that. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in my head. Your own thing. I had no money, no investors, no degree, but I had a vision, a real-time AI interpreter that wasn't just technical. It would feel human. Understand tone, emotion, culture. It would adapt in real time, switching dialects mid-sentence. A tool for the future of global business, diplomacy, and education. The seed had been planted, and I knew it was time to grow. I made the decision in the middle of the night. No grand speech, no standing ovation. Just me, my laptop, and a swirling storm of ambition. I was going to build it, not a prototype, not a demo, a real product. A platform that would change how people connected across language barriers. I called it LinqAI because true understanding wasn't just about translation. It was about linking minds. But I had nothing, no savings, no team, no roadmap. All I had was the will to try, and I believed that would be enough. I kept my internship at Halcyon during the day, but at night I lived in libraries and co-working, spaces that stayed open until dawn. I rented a tiny studio apartment with broken heating and a noisy fridge that I named Jeff because it kept humming like it had opinions. My first challenge was data. AI needs training data, and most data sets for translation were either incomplete, expensive, or culturally irrelevant. So I started collecting my own. For months, I scraped subtitles, forums, podcasts, business meetings, live conferences, anything that offered natural, nuanced speech. I paid freelance voice actors with the little money I earned to read sample sentences in various dialects. I wasn't just building a translation engine, I was training a soul. To get it right, I needed help. I reached out to Maria, quietly, cautiously. She was surprised. "You're really doing this," she said, eyes narrowed. "Yes," I replied, "but not to impress anyone. I just think the world needs this." She paused, then nodded. "I'll give you 2 weekends a month. That's all I can spare." It was more than enough. We worked in secret. I coded the core logic. She built the architecture. Together, we developed something that stunned even us. A translation AI that didn't just spit out literal meanings, but captured emotion. It knew when to be formal, when to be casual. It recognized sarcasm, irony, humor, even grief. The first time it translated a TED Talk from Mandarin to French, complete with the speaker's emotion and timing, Maria just stared at the screen and whispered, "This isn't a product, this is a revolution." But not everyone saw it that way. One morning, I got an email from Victor Laurent. Yes, the same director who had once mocked me. "Your off-hours activities are causing a conflict of interest. We'd like to ask you to formally resign." Read the message 3 times. I hadn't used company time. I hadn't signed any non-compete agreement. But Halcyon didn't care. They didn't want a janitor turned intern making waves. It made people uncomfortable. For a minute I hesitated. It was security, it was a salary, it was a known world. Then I closed the laptop and sent a one-line reply. Thank you for the opportunity. I resign effective immediately. That night, I walked out of the building with no job, no income, and no fear. Because for the first time, I had purpose. The next 3 months were brutal. Maria could only help sparingly. I tried pitching LinqAI to angel investors, but no one wanted to back a guy with no degree and no corporate title. One investor laughed in my face and said, "So, you're telling me you were cleaning toilets 6 months ago and now you want me to invest in your tech?" Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. I survived on ramen, black coffee, and hope. I sold my only decent laptop and replaced it with a second-hand model that overheated if I opened more than 3 browser tabs. I learned to be efficient, lean code, minimal distractions. I built a pitch deck using free Canva templates and practiced my presentation in the bathroom mirror. I even used to write down investor objections, then answer them out loud as if I were debating a room full of skeptics, because I knew if I ever got one shot, just one, I had to be ready. And then, it happened. A young entrepreneur named Elena, who ran a cross-border logistics company, was struggling with expanding into the Middle East. Her app had translation issues, and customer complaints were rising. She came across a Reddit comment I'd left months earlier, offering free trial versions of LinqAI to anyone dealing with localization problems. She downloaded it. 2 days later, she messaged me. "Can you handle 50,000 API calls a day?" I nearly dropped my phone, we weren't ready. But I said yes anyway. Then I worked 19 hours a day for the next week to make us ready. That deal changed everything. Elena posted about LinqAI on LinkedIn. It went viral among small startups, then mid-tier firms. Everyone wanted the emotional translator. In just 4 months, we had 22 paying clients, and our first $100,000 in revenue. I hired 2 developers, both self-taught, like me, and we moved into a shared office space with peeling paint and flickering lights. But we called it HQ, and every morning I'd say the same thing to the team. We're not building software, we're building bridges. Still, success didn't come easy. Larger companies tried to copy us. One multinational stole our code and integrated a watered-down version into their platform. We couldn't afford legal action, but I wasn't going to play victim. Instead, I innovated faster. We rolled out new features weekly: auto-detection of regional dialects, business tone adjustment, live interpretation via mobile calls. We even introduced a feature that could detect stress in a speaker's voice and adjust phrasing to de-escalate tense conversations. LinqAI wasn't just a tool, it became a mediator, a diplomat, a friend to those navigating global conversations. Then came the offer. A top-tier Silicon Valley firm, not Halcyon but one of their rivals, offered to acquire LinqAI for $12 million. I stared at the email, $12 million. From janitor to millionaire in under 2 years, Maria cried when she read it. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. "You proved them all wrong," she whispered. I didn't answer right away, because deep inside I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. $12 million. That number echoed in my mind for days. It was enough to change everything. Pay off debt, take care of my parents for life, never worry about heating bills, or whether Jeff the fridge was finally going to explode. And yet, didn't sleep a wink that night. Something about the offer felt like a trap disguised as a reward. I kept asking myself, was I building this just to sell it? Or was I building it because it needed to exist? I sat alone in our tiny shared office, staring at the flickering tube light overhead. The hum of the servers, the faint smell of burnt coffee, the clutter of sticky notes on the wall, all of it reminded me why I started. It wasn't about money. It was about dignity, language, identity. I declined the offer, and just like that, I became the guy who walked away from $12 million. People thought I was insane. Even Maria called me in a panic. You what? She shouted. Do you realize what we could have done with that kind of money? I understood her anger. She had invested her time and belief in me when no one else did. But I told her the truth. We can do more. We're worth more. And the world needs us to be bigger than a product someone shelves. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said quietly, Okay, but this better work. So I made it work. With the buzz from Elena's LinkedIn post and the investors snooping around, I saw an opportunity. We launched a public beta of LinqAI 2.0 with emotional context recognition and live voice translations. We called it Conversance, short for Conversation Plus Sense. We also introduced a freemium model. It exploded. In 3 weeks we hit 500,000 users, bloggers, teachers, travelers, therapists, humanitarian workers. They were all using it. And the feedback? Overwhelming. It helped me talk to my grandmother for the first time in years. I closed a cross-border deal in 30 minutes. I cried when I heard my late husband's farewell message in my own language. That last one wrecked me. This wasn't just a product. It was healing people, repairing relationships, giving people their voices back. But the climb brought enemies. Victor Laurent, the same director who laughed at me, went public. In an industry conference, he made a smug remark. Some applications confuse sentiment with sophistication. Translation without cultural calibration is just noise. I knew he was talking about me. It didn't bother me. Until his company, Halcyon, launched LexiSync, their own AI translator, one eerily similar to LinqAI. Then I saw it. The same UX, the same features. Even the taglines were suspiciously familiar. They had copied us. But what they didn't understand, what Victor never understood, was that LinqAI wasn't just tech. It was human spirit, poured into code. I didn't sue. I responded differently. We open-sourced our core language framework. It shocked the world. People thought we were crazy. Why give away your competitive edge? Because LinqAI wasn't about domination. It was about liberation. We wanted the world to speak, not to serve shareholders. And guess what? Developers from everywhere joined our mission. Volunteers submitted pull requests from Ghana, Poland, the Philippines, and Pakistan. Suddenly, LinqAI was evolving at lightning speed. We weren't a company anymore. We were a movement. One day, I got an unexpected call. A woman introduced herself as Ambassador Rowena Chikezi from Nigeria. I used LinqAI to negotiate a truce between two regional leaders. Your app saved lives. I froze. That was the moment I knew. We were changing the world, one word at a time. But not everyone wanted to see us win. An anonymous insider leaked to the press that LinqAI was unlicensed, underfunded, and vulnerable to cyber attacks. Within hours, we lost 2 enterprise contracts and a major investor. The media called us a brilliant idea led by a foolish dropout. My team was terrified. Maria nearly walked away, and then someone I trusted turned on me. It was Jason, our third developer, the one I hired when we couldn't even afford real chairs. He left and took our server access logs with him. He joined Halcyon. When I confronted him, he didn't even flinch. You were never going to scale, he said. Victor promised me a team. You were chasing dreams. I'm chasing outcomes. Broke me. Not because he left, but because I had believed in him. For 3 days, I disappeared. No calls, no updates. I walked around the city like a ghost. I sat by the river where I used to eat instant noodles and dreamed of building something great. And then I saw something that changed everything. An old man was struggling to order a coffee from a young barista who didn't speak his language. They kept fumbling, misunderstood, frustrated. The man looked humiliated. I walked over, pulled out my phone, and launched Conversance. It translated the man's request in real time. He smiled. The barista smiled. Something in me clicked. This was why I started. I returned to the office with Fire in my eyes. We don't stop, I told my team. Let them doubt us. Let them copy us. They can't replicate what they don't understand. Maria nodded, tearfully. I secured new servers. I hired 2 cybersecurity experts. We launched Conversance 3.0, and this time it came with real-time negotiation tone adaptation. Think of it like an AI diplomat, an engine that didn't just translate, but guided users toward peaceful language choices in tense conversations. The launch video went viral. In 48 hours, Apple, Google, and the UN were all knocking on our door. And then the big one came. Jeff Bezos himself tweeted, "Smart translation isn't just about language, it's about empathy. LinqAI gets it." In the next board meeting, we voted unanimously. We were never going to sell, not even for $1 billion, because we had already won. We had become the voice of understanding, and nothing was more powerful than that. When LinqAI 3.0 went live, we thought we were prepared. We weren't. Within a week, our servers crashed twice. We had requests from 130 countries, and within 48 hours, we were trending on every major platform. But it wasn't fame that overwhelmed us, it was need. Hospitals in conflict zones using our AI to triage patients, courtrooms using our voice model to let immigrants defend themselves properly, firefighters using live transcription in disaster zones to coordinate multilingual rescue efforts. It was no longer a startup, it was a lifeline. I still remember the call, a private number, middle of the night. "This is President David Klitschko," the voice said. "Of the Republic of Veliska." I sat up instantly. Veliska was a small Eastern European nation on the brink of civil war. Linguistic division had torn its people in half. Half the country spoke Old Veliskan, the other, a Russian-influenced dialect. For decades, neither side understood the other, literally. "We're on the edge," he said. "We can't even agree on what's being said across negotiation tables. I want to try your AI." I blinked. "Mr. President, we're not certified for international diplomacy. You're trusted by the people," he replied. "That's enough." 3 days later, I was on a military plane. Landing in Veliska felt like stepping into a history book or a powder keg. Tanks rumbled through old stone streets. People stared from broken windows. The tension was sharp enough to slice air. We had installed LinqAI's diplomatic module on encrypted tablets. No Wi-Fi, no cloud, just local processing and live negotiation guidance. The first test came during a mediation between rival governors. They glared across the table. Each time one side spoke, LinqAI translated, not just the words, but the intent. If someone raised their voice, the app responded with softer phrasing. If tension rose, it offered calming alternatives before delivering the message. By the end of the meeting, they shook hands. One of them whispered, "It's like it taught us how to be human again." Back home, the press exploded. Tech startup diffuses civil conflict using AI. Can translation save the world? The janitor who built the bridge between nations, but with attention came scrutiny. Our download numbers skyrocketed. Our user base crossed 50 million data, but our servers weren't built for diplomacy. We were still a team of 17 people crammed into a noisy co-working space with broken chairs and backup drives balanced on pizza boxes. And that's when Victor Laurent came back. Halcyon launched LexiSync Pro, claiming it was government-grade, emotion-aware, and locally customizable. They partnered with major defense contractors and immediately inked deals across Europe. Victor even went on CNN. "Startups can't handle geopolitics," he sneered. "Leave world peace to professionals." I was furious, but I wasn't about to fight him with marketing. I fought with impact. Instead of scaling through agencies, we built an ambassador program. We trained linguists, human rights volunteers, and teachers to use our tech in the field. In Uganda, it helped a deaf refugee communicate for the first time in 6 years. In Ukraine, it reunited a mother with her lost son through a conversation, stitched together from partial phrases. In Bolivia, It helped diffuse a violent land protest when a government officer finally heard the villagers' side, clearly. Then came the real test. The United Nations invited us to facilitate a round of peace talks in Geneva. I nearly dropped my phone. "Are you sure?" I asked. "You know we're just a startup?" The woman on the other end, a high-level diplomat, replied, "No, you're not just anything. You're the only ones the delegates trust." We walked into the marble halls of Geneva with backpacks and borrowed suits. Heads of state looked at us skeptically. But once the system started working, jaws dropped. The AI didn't just translate, it de-escalated. It turned fury into understanding. It guided leaders to hear the pain in each other's voices. By the third session, even the most hardline officials were leaning forward, listening, adjusting their tones. At the end of the conference, 4 nations signed a preliminary peace accord, with LinqAI cited as the primary facilitator. I cried that night, alone, in a hotel hallway, because it wasn't just success anymore. It was history. But even victories cast shadows. Back in San Francisco, a major leak rocked the company. Our diplomatic modules, meant to operate offline, had been secretly reverse-engineered by an anonymous third party. They used our tech in disinformation campaigns across social media. Instead of uniting people, they twisted words to spread hate. Perfectly translated, emotionally manipulative hate. I broke down. How had my dream been weaponized? Maria found me staring at my old mop bucket in the office corner. "I built this to help people," I whispered. "Now it's hurting them." She knelt beside me. "Then take it back. Fix it. Don't run from what you started." So we rebuilt everything, line by line. We launched LinqAI 4.0 with integrated integrity protocols, AI that could detect not just sentiment, but manipulation intent. If someone tried to use the platform for disinformation, it flagged them. Rewrites were required, accounts were restricted. We were the first translation platform with ethical enforcement AI. Some called it controversial, others revolutionary. But the results? Fake news translation plummeted 67% across our channels, and for the first time, governments started asking for our help instead of stealing from us. In the middle of all this, my old high school principal emailed me. He had seen my face on a cover of Forbes. "You were mopping floors in my office," he wrote. "Now you're rebuilding diplomacy." I laughed for a long time. Then I replied, "Language was always my first superpower. You just didn't see it." It happened on a Tuesday. I was set to speak at the Global Tech Frontiers Summit in Singapore. Heads of state, Fortune 100 CEOs, AI pioneers. The kind of crowd where a single word could shift markets. I had just stepped off the plane when I got a notification on my phone. Victor Laurent to keynote the AI ethics panel. My heart tightened. Victor. Again. After everything, Halcyon had rebranded as a transparency-first corporation. They were pushing a new product, Nouveau Lingua, with flashy claims and glitzy PR, but insiders said otherwise. There were rumors of shadow contracts, of selective translations, even accusations of the AI subtly favoring corporate clients in legal disputes. Still, Halcyon had muscle, money, media, influence. And Victor? He still had that smug, calculated charm. The kind that could turn a boardroom against you with a single glance. On the morning of the panel, I stood backstage, fixing my lapel mic when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned and nearly choked. It was Mr. Beckford, the very man who had once laughed in my face and said, "So, you think you're smart? Then translate." He looked older now, grayer, but those same calculating eyes studied me. "Didn't expect to see a janitor here," he smirked. I smiled. "Didn't expect to see a relic from my origin story either." He laughed, genuinely. "You always were, quick with words." He extended a hand. "Respect, kid. You did what most of us just talk about. You changed the game." I shook it. Not out of forgiveness, but closure. The panel began. Victor took the stage first. In his smooth baritone voice, he painted a utopian vision. Nouveau lingua ensures perfect transparency, emotional accuracy, and algorithmic fairness. He gestured to graphs and testimonials. But beware of idealists, he warned. They create tools without understanding consequences. True ethics demand control, not chaos. The audience nodded, murmuring approval. Then it was my turn. I walked up, heart pounding, but clear. I didn't show slides, I showed stories. A deaf child in Aleppo, who now reads bedtime stories to his little sister through LinqAI. An indigenous tribe in the Amazon, using our offline modules to preserve their endangered language. A woman in Seoul who stopped her husband's deportation, because for the first time, someone understood her plea. Then I said, "You talk about control, Victor. But I talk about connection. We don't own language. We honor it. We don't bend it to profit. We lift people with it." There was silence. Then applause. Then, standing ovation. Victor's jaw clenched. For the first time, he looked small. After the summit, something strange happened. One by one, investors began pulling out of Halcyon. Whistleblowers started speaking up. A journalist from The Guardian exposed doctored demo results. Halcyon's stock fell 38% in 3 days. Victor resigned. The same week, we got a call from the World Literacy Alliance. "We want LinqAI in every underfunded school around the globe," they said. "Can you handle that?" I remembered the days I ate crackers for dinner, fixing code in a laundromat. And now here we were, changing classrooms, saving lives, restoring voices. I flew home after a whirlwind month, exhausted but grateful. I stepped into our new San Francisco HQ, 10 floors high, fully solar-powered, filled with over 900 employees. I paused. Something felt incomplete, so I grabbed a visitor badge and walked down to our janitorial wing. There, a young man, no older than I had been, was mopping the hallway, headphones in, rapping lyrics under. His breath. I tapped his shoulder. He pulled out his earbuds. "Yes, sir?" I smiled. "What are you studying?" He blinked. "Me? Nothing yet. I was thinking maybe programming or design." I nodded. "You're already designing the future," I said. "You just don't know it yet." I handed him my card. "Come see me next week. Let's talk." Scholarships. It wasn't about charity. It was about the circle. Because when someone once laughed at a janitor, the janitor rebuilt the world. People always ask me the same question now. When did you know you'd made it? Not when I earned my first million. Not even when Forbes put me on their self-made billionaires under 40 cover. It was something smaller, quieter. It was when a single sentence whispered in my ear changed the course of thousands of lives. Let me tell you how that happened. 2 years after the Halcyon collapse, LinqAI had gone global. 4.3 billion real-time translations served daily. Over 87 countries using our education modules. An open-source API adopted by humanitarian groups, border agencies, and health networks alike. But with scale came struggle. Data privacy debates, ethical watchdogs, political pressure. One morning, I was summoned to Geneva to speak before the United Nations Advisory Panel on Tech and Humanity. It was the most consequential meeting of my life. On the flight there, I slept little. In my mind, I replayed every headline. Is LinqAI rewriting the narrative of war zones? The language between us? Is tech the new diplomat? Power in the hands of one man? The weight of responsibility settled like lead in my chest. At the UN panel, the room was colder than the air conditioning. Representatives from China, the US, Brazil, Sweden, South Africa, and over 50 others were present. The chairwoman, a composed but sharp-eyed woman named Ambassador Imani Ruth, addressed me directly. Mr. Khan, your creation has altered how the world speaks, negotiates, and even survives. But with that power comes vulnerability. What stops your tool from being used for manipulation? I didn't flinch. I agree, I said. That's why LinqAI is moving to a public stewardship model. A murmur rippled through the room. Our codebase will now be managed by a global ethical trust. Technologists, linguists, and human rights leaders from around the world. I continued. No single person should own the world's voice, not even me. There was silence. Then, Ambassador Ruth smiled and nodded. After the panel, I stepped outside, my lungs finally breathing real air. That's when it happened. A young woman in a red scarf ran up to me, maybe 20, nervous, hands shaking. Are you the LinqAI founder? Yes, I said gently. She looked like she wanted to say something, but her voice caught, so she pulled out her phone. Typed. The app spoke. My name is Najwa. I was born mute. I never knew my father, but last year, someone used your app to record his old voicemails. It translated his words for me. It told me he loved me, that he named me Hope. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that gift. She didn't wait for my response. She just hugged me, tight, and walked away into the snowy street. And that's when I knew. I'd made it, not because of the billions, but because of a whisper. Months later, I sat alone at the graveyard in Karachi. In front of my mother's resting place, I whispered, Ami, I cleaned floors for men who laughed at me, but I never stopped listening, never stopped learning. And your son? He's not the janitor anymore. He's the key that unlocked the voices of the world. A breeze rustled the leaves as if she was answering back. Today, I teach part-time at universities I could never afford. I mentor founders who remind me of myself, hungry, tired, and full of quiet brilliance. We've launched a foundation for language preservation. We support deaf and mute youth in tech careers. We work with war-torn communities to restore lost voices, digitally and spiritually. And as for me, I still carry my old janitor's key in my pocket, not for access, but as a reminder of where I started, of what they said, of how wrong they were. Because one day, someone laughed and said, "So you think you're smart? Then translate." And I did. I translated hurt into hope, silence into speech, mockery into meaning. And when the world listened, I didn't shout. I whispered back, "I've been waiting for you to hear me all along.